Greetings, fair listeners, and thank you for joining me once again as we celebrate stories and storytelling in all their forms and the bards and artists who bring them all to life. I am the Tale Collector and your host, Erica Lynn Adams. Warning, this story deals with mature topics like cyberbullying and teen suicide. Listener and researcher discretion is advised. Looking back, I consider myself lucky when it comes to my high school years. My parents, though busy, were as supportive as possible. I had good friends who never took advantage of me, and I was so focused on my grades that I simply couldn't be bothered to look for trouble. Now, this could be my age talking. I graduated in 2005, but whenever I hear true stories of teen bullying and/or suicide, I find myself thinking, are actual teens really this stupidly cruel to each other? I mean, cheesy Nickelodeon sitcoms, melodramatic soap operas, and raunchy slasher flicks are one thing. But serious, real-life news reports? I think another factor in my relatively smooth high school career was that I didn't grow up with social media, which begs the question. Had I started school just 10 years later than I did, would I have been exposed to cyberbullying and the plethora of other dangers posed by Facebook, Instagram, and the like? Not gonna lie, the thought makes me shudder, much more than this movie does, as chilling as it already is. Prepare to get Unfriended. Released in 2014 and rated R for violent content, pervasive language, some sexuality, and drug and alcohol use, all involving teens. In 2013, high schooler Laura Barnes was recorded passing out drunk in her own waist at a wild, unsupervised party. The video was then uploaded. Unable to bear the shame which followed online and off, Laura took her own life. One evening a year later, her former best friend, Blair Lilly, is Skype chatting with her boyfriend Mitch and their friends Adam, Jess, Ken, and Val, along with an uninvited user named Billy227, whose account apparently belongs to the deceased Laura. But whoever Billy227 really is, she is no mere internet troll. Not only does she harass and threaten the increasingly hysterical teens, countering every computer move they make with uncanny technological skill, she knows all of their deepest, darkest secrets, including who shot and uploaded the video that destroyed Laura. Forced to play a lethal variation of the drinking game, Never Have I Ever, Blair and her friends find themselves helpless to stop the supernatural hacker from destroying their lives in turn, both social and mortal. Originally titled Offline and Cybernatural before its wide release, Unfriended has often been compared to the Blair Witch Project in that it too popularized a unique cinematic format, screen life, despite being neither the first nor the most commercially successful of its kind. Like the deliberately unrefined look of the found footage subgenre of Blair Witch, screen life presents a story entirely via computer screen in real time, gaining popularity with the advent of increasing internet use in the 2010s. By the way, Blair Witch, Blair Lilly, connection? Director Levon Gabriatse's interest in this project came partly from his childhood in Soviet Georgia, during which he himself was bullied, as well as his thoughts on how the nature of bullying has changed over time. The idea, he says, that he could have grown up with the internet and been subjected to such torment 24/7, as opposed to just a relative few short times a day, is a frightening one to say the least. This being the only screen life film I've seen as of writing, Unfriended has proven to be an excellent tutorial on the subject. Some of the best horror films ever made are those in which we see less rather than more. Everything is presented entirely through Blair's MacBook screen. Unlike a regular video camera, a computer is more cumbersome to carry, has no specialized capture features, and is just plain finicky at the best of times. Glitches abound as pixels and audio can't always keep up with quick movements, obscuring transmissions while creating an uncanny atmosphere in which you start to question what you're actually seeing. Plus, it is refreshing to get that nice creepy amateur look without the headache-inducing, stomach-churning hassle of shaking cameras. As a side note, I absolutely love how the filmmakers similarly distorted the opening Universal Pictures production logo. Not as subtle as the Ring franchise's artistic VHS graininess of the DreamWorks and Paramount logos, of course. But hey, since when have teen slashers been known for subtlety? That we see almost nothing beyond the teens' faces increases the feeling of claustrophobic helplessness. This aspect ties in well with their significant, albeit obvious, social media addiction. In their desperation, they think that by staying online, they are staying connected, when in reality, they are just making themselves easier targets. Seriously, turning to chat roulette for help when someone's literally dying? Even by hilariously dumb movie teen standards, who does that? And where are the parents anyway? Is there really no one around in any one of the teens' houses to hear the carnage happening? Which brings me to some other contextual issues I've noticed upon subsequent viewings, several of which revolve around Blair herself. Before we even know what she looks like, she kicks off the story by watching Laura's infamous suicide video. Now I know that young spectators who record first and help later are a tragic reality, but who except the most callous and detached watches a suicide video of a best friend without so much as an emotional peep? Moreover, several times when Blair is typing private conversations, she never actively mutes her friends. Instead, they have a way of conveniently muffling themselves, apparently so Blair can concentrate on checking over her messages for several unnecessary seconds before sending, and hovering her cursor over links for several more unnecessary seconds before clicking. Also that the audience has ample time to read over her shoulder, so to speak, which is pretty much as exciting as it sounds. Yet one of the most glaring by far is when Blair, a tech-savvy millennial of the 2010s, asks her friends what an internet troll is. Moments like these are on par with, as you know, and other lazy info-dumping tropes. They may help get the audience up to speed and move the story along, but at the expense of natural story progression and world immersion. Yet there is some good meat to be found on these technological bones. I've mentioned in the past that teen slasher flicks aren't my cinematic cup of tea, due in large part to most of the potential victims having more hormones and narcissism than brain cells and empathy, and these guys are no exception. But again, the screen life format helps. The intimacy of the single location recording lets us really see their personalities, relationships, and quirks, based solely on the dialogue, actions, and possessions shown up front. Like Jess using a flat iron and other makeup items, Val shouting at her yapping dog, Ken blending salsa in his bedroom, Adam acting macho with his loaded handgun, and Blair being turned on by Mitch's kinky threats with his butcher knife. But hands down, it is Billy who steals the show without a single natural spoken word. A major production highlight is how the filmmakers, in seamless real time, incorporate faults and errors that in fully functioning devices shouldn't be possible. Billy's mechanical flexes alone run the group ragged, from making hang-up or close options disappear, to imitating a very creepy 911 dispatcher. Her wicked sense of humor truly shines once the drinking-turned-dying game begins. Bit by bit, she strips each teen naked, exposing the cruelties the so-called friends have committed against each other behind their backs. Sort of like the best, or worst, reality TV, one can't help but keep watching the relentless onslaught of cold, harsh truth, just so one can squirm with depraved delight at the participants' priceless, heated reactions. Even better, I can almost see Billy savoring her sweet, sweet revenge via the specific ways she targets the teens and rubs their tragedy and heartbreak in their faces. Notable examples include showing a fake adult entertainment pop-up ad featuring a prior recording of Blair teasingly unbuttoning her shirt, over a backdrop of the real Blair and her remaining friends distraught weeping at the sudden death of one of their number, and playing the Connie Conway song My How You Lie 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 on full blast with Blair unable to mute it, while the other teens bicker and curse at each other for their exposed betrayals, all in a brilliant display of deceptively cheerful juxtaposition. And yet, through it all, they each deny responsibility or make excuses to justify their heinous actions. And considering the chameleonic ease with which they lie and cheat and backstab each other for their own pleasure or gain, I think in this case at least, we can only place so much blame on social media. In any other movie, these kids would be the heroes, flaws notwithstanding. Blair, I dare say, is set up to be the quintessential final girl. But they're also just as dumb and conceited as any slasher victim of old, just as likely to go off in search of their next and/or final drunken orgy in the woods. That said, Unfriended's confined setup not only necessitates and executes more creativity regarding character interactions as well as kills, it provides obvious but still significant commentary on young people's abuse of each other via the internet. Instead of the attractive youths being hindered by a lack of technology with which to call for help, here it's the abundance and over-reliance on it which proves fatal. Seriously, everyone, think twice before you start slandering online, lest the consequences bleed into your reality. Literally. Gather around next time for another tale you may have forgotten or have never heard before. Until then, listeners, may inspiration always find you.